Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Yay!
Woo!
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell, and this is my associate, Miles Crackdust.
Hello.
And we just watched Season 5, Episode 12 of Psych, otherwise known as Dual Spires.
Dual Spires. Dual Spires.
Get it?
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Because it's like Twin Peaks.
Yeah, you got it.
Cinnamon Festival. The Great Northern. I'm not familiar with that publication.
What, you know every small-town newspaper in California?
Actually, I do, Sean.
Ridgecrest.
The Daily Independent.
Shawnopolis.
That doesn't exist.
Yet. Just need 50,000 signatures and a large plot of land. Well, look up this town, Dual Spires. I mean, how can there be a cinnamon festival that we've never heard of? Zoom in. Zoom in again. Keep zooming in.
I am, Sean. Dude, this town is so small that it's in parentheses. How the heck did we get this email?
It's a delicious mystery.
First and foremost, shout out to Noah, our Patreon producer, who made this all happen.
Indeed.
If you haven't been paying attention, this is one of our 600 Saturday series that we're doing right now.
Yeah, we've got a lot. We've got a lot.
We're cycling through them all right. This is a 4-episode miniseries about the show Psych.
Mm-hmm.
Last episode we did the episode that is the Friday the 13th spoof.
Yeah,
and now we're
Tuesday
doing
the 12th or something.
Yeah, Tuesday, I think the 17th. And we will be continuing our pattern of doing the movie spoof or pop culture spoof episodes rather.
Yeah.
I already have established myself as a person who's never watched Psych. This is the second episode I've seen. Okay,
interesting. So in between last episode and this episode, you have not watched any more Psych?
No.
Okay.
I have not. So yeah, this is the second episode for me. Have you watched more Psych?
A little bit, but I'm still in the first season. So
Sure.
Actually, I might be in season 2 now, but I'm still early in the show.
Right.
But I did not start watching Psych until, if you guys listened to the last episode of this miniseries, that's what made me start watching Psych. I had never seen it before.
Yeah, I've been told to watch it by my sister, a few people, a lot of listeners who like it. I'm not sure if these episodes are a good introduction.
I will say
after this one.
I will say this is a much better representation of what the show is than the previous episode we watched. It was weird that the premise of the show is we're tackling, these aren't the only 4 episodes that spoof movies, but the 4 episodes we're going to be covering are ones that are pretty direct movie parodies. And it just so happens that the Friday the 13th one was the first one we did, and it's one of the most format-breaking episodes of the series that I've seen in the limited amount of episodes that I've watched. So it was really a wild way to be introduced to the show with an episode that breaks the format and does not really represent what the rest of the series is like.
I guess before we get into it, my question is, aside from format, do these episodes correctly represent the humor? Because
Yes.
of the nature of these episodes, it's almost all references. Every joke is a reference to Twin Peaks, or a lot of the stuff.
A lot of them is, and this episode, again, like I said, it keeps the format. It's a better representation of the show and the characters. The humor is more in line with the rest of the series, but this episode is so dense with Twin Peaks references that I had to stop writing them down during the first scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so dense with Twin Peaks references.
It did feel like it's in the first scene that slowly morphs into Twin Peaks by the
it does
opening credits.
I meant Yeah, not the very first scene. There's a couple in the very first scene when it's them in their detective agency. It's really the scene at the diner is when it really starts being like, oh shit, I just need to stop writing these down because they're not going to stop coming, I don't think, and they don't. Probably
the biggest reference throughout is the fact that many of the actors in this were in Twin Peaks.
Pretty much every single supporting guest character in this episode is from Twin Peaks.
Yeah. The log lady shows up as a woman carrying a piece of wood. Laura Palmer is right there in there.
She's one of the murderers.
As the doctor. She is one of the murderers. Spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read that they originally they wanted David Lynch to guest star.
Obviously.
And the very funny reason why is the main star, I forget his name, but he also co-wrote this episode.
James Roday.
James Roday was like, I don't want him to ask because I'm concerned what he'll think of the episode, which I get completely, because to get David Lynch in your thing, he's going to have to read the script.
Yeah.
And then you have David Lynch reading a script you wrote. And it's like, oh, that's exhausting.
And then he might come to you with some David Lynch notes.
Exactly.
Now, James, I notice here on this page you've written about this character when it really should be this character.
Yeah, exactly. And then Ray Wise, who's in this, apparently he's just been in episodes of Psych.
He is a recurring character on the series, yeah. So it just worked out for this episode, and they do a reference to his hair turning white in Twin Peaks.
Yes, they sure do.
Which was funny.
What is your relationship to Twin Peaks?
I watched it when my mom was really into the show while it was airing, so I saw most of it while it was airing.
That's more or less where I'm at. I haven't rewatched it in a very long time.
I have. It's been probably 5 or 6 years since my last rewatch, though, so I am a little fuzzy. Like, there was some stuff in this episode, like the sheriff. The sheriff is Sheriff Andrew Jackson, which is obviously a reference to Sheriff Harry S. Truman from Twin Peaks.
Yes.
The actor who plays him is also in Twin Peaks in a smaller role where this is like one of the main references that I couldn't quite get, because I can't quite remember who he plays. I believe he's this old guy who he's kind of an invalid or a shut-in, and Laura like befriends him. I think he has her diary. I think that's like the role he plays in the show.
Okay.
Anyway, that actor was in both the series and Fire Walk with Me. I just can't quite remember his character.
Yeah. Yeah, they got as many people as they could. Mm-hmm. I know. Yeah, he was. I looked at most of them up, and I recognized their faces on the show.
Yeah, Audrey plays the librarian.
Yeah.
Bobby is Bob, the guy who runs the diner.
Yeah, but I would say that I probably missed a lot of the references. I'm not a big fan of Twin Peaks. There's a certain like nostalgia to it, and there's a certain like comfort in Twin Peaks because it's very much of a time in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
And it's very melodramatic, and the music is very distinct.
Yeah.
And obviously the things they focused on is the music and the acting, which was very smart. 2 things to focus on.
Oh yeah.
Because they act like they're in Twin Peaks. And mainly that means acting like they're in a soap opera.
Yeah. And Sean and Gus frequently call out how strange it is. Like when the boyfriend starts breaking down and crying over the earring, he's like, all right, that's a little much. It's a bit melodramatic.
I like that Gus has like sympathetic crying because it works in this episode.
Yeah, right.
Because everybody keeps crying, so he just keeps crying.
They do a good goof on when they discover Laura Palmer's body in the pilot of Twin Peaks. It's this really protracted sequence. Like, it shows how it affects every single person in the town. And it's this drawn out sequence where everybody's crying. There's the extremely memorable moment when her mom finds out and just screams, and it's a really kind of a scary haunting scream, especially if you watched the show when you were like 6 or whatever when it came on. And they kind of goof on that in this episode. I agree with you that definitely the two main things they focus on are the music and the melodrama of the acting, and those were smart because they're the two main things that everybody remembers about Twin Peaks.
Right.
But it is, like I mentioned, it is absolutely dense with just real quick references, little asides, like she emails them, like they get the case because they get an anonymous email from Under the Nail at something, and Under the Nail is a reference to, they find a pretty critical piece of, it's like the first real clue that they find in Twin Peaks is under Laura Palmer's fingernails. So it's like that level of reference that's going on in this episode.
Right.
It's so fucking dense.
It's everything though, because like casual Twin Peaks, you'll like when they find the body, it's almost shot for shot.
It's so close. The end credits is the same. Even with the same, like it's the exact same score. Like I think throughout they're kind of aping the music, but the end credits is just the same end credits theme from Twin Peaks.
Right. And of course they do the dancing. They do all the things people would expect.
They really did a very good job of nailing the vibe of Twin Peaks
in a lot of scenes. Well, what they're doing, and it's a really cool idea, and I honestly think this is where they failed in the last episode. This episode made me not like the last episode more. I didn't dislike the last episode, but like
this episode is undeniably way stronger.
Yeah, because the key that they missed from the last episode is it's like they're entering the world.
Right.
And they're the only ones who notice.
Right.
So everybody's very melodramatic and everything's very Twin Peaks except for them. And it works a lot better.
This is a later episode too, so it might be there might be an element of we're more seasoned at this point.
Yeah. But going back to what I was saying about these episodes representing the show as a whole, the issue is like all the tropes in this are tropes from Twin Peaks. All the jokes are about that, and so like I still have no clear idea what a normal episode of this show is like. It doesn't feel like this represented the show because it's all references.
A lot of it is.
And like I can see that being a fun celebration, but it's one of those things where I'm watching it, I'm like, God, I hope the regular show isn't just constant pop culture references without a punchline. It's a punchline because it works for what they're doing. They're spoofing something. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? Where it's like, I still don't have an idea of what them, like, I was looking at like the detective tropes where it's like, oh, sheriff's son, or like, oh, she has a diary. These are all like such common tropes. And I realized, because they're from Twin Peaks.
They're from Twin Peaks.
Like they're all Twin Peaks tropes.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can't really judge it by that more as I'm judging it by just how fun of a celebration of Twin Peaks it is.
That's fair. And I think, I disagree that the only jokes in this episode are references, because there is a lot of good gags that represent the show, and it's kind of it's based a lot around sort of rapid fire delivery between Sean and Gus.
Right.
I think maybe the references stood out more because the whole thing is a reference.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the scene, for instance, where they're eating pie and like Sean says to Gus, he's like, "You're on your 8th piece. You should slow down." And Gus is like, I eat when I'm like tense. And anyway, what are you talking about? You had 6. And then Sean's like, "That's right, because I believe in portion control." That's kind of like what the humor is like,
right,
in the show.
Yeah, they're back and forth. I liked, and I don't know if this is a reference. I'm not sure. Maybe this is a Twin Peaks reference. My favorite line was the Native American. Is he a deputy? He's a police officer?
He's supposed to be Michael Horse from Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Oh, I know who he represents.
Yeah,
for sure. But he puts his hand on the ground and goes, "The earth is soft and moist," and then walks away. Which I just thought was great because, of course, it's soft and moist. Yeah. It's the earth. And that really tickled me. I liked the line, "I'm a woman of science and law and accounting," for the doctor who's a vet. And what is she? Psychiatrist, vet, optometrist,
and like an accountant.
Accountant and lawyer and vet. Yeah, I said vet. Forensic scientist. Yeah, I enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, I mean, that is a reference to Twin Peaks, but it's also just funny.
Yeah, there's also, again, it's a reference to small town life, which that's what Twin Peaks is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of small town tropes that don't really... It's one of those things that's in so much film and TV whenever a small town pops up.
Yeah.
It's always like the most offensive portrayal of small towns, because it's all written by people from LA, it feels like.
Yeah.
They have no reception. There's the idea that everybody knows each other, which I've never, like, have you ever experienced that?
I haven't, but I know it's a thing.
And then, like, the town is all gathering around a festival, like it's the biggest thing, that sort of stuff, where it's like, I've never experienced that in small towns. Like, there's fairs and shit, and, like, if you're a teenager and you don't have a car, yeah, you're gonna have to go to those to, like, do drugs and hang out with other teenagers. But, like, I guess, I don't know. I
think maybe you either just weren't from the right small town or not a small enough town.
Maybe not, yeah.
Like, for instance, Marina grew up in an extremely small town, and this is, Twin Peaks is, that's one of the, like, I showed her Twin Peaks during my last rewatch, and it just clicked with her. Because she's just like, oh, this is just everything about where I grew up.
But, like the two specific things, like, cell phone reception, everybody gathering around a festival, that's on Twin Peaks, right?
Well, cell phone reception,
obviously isn't in Twin Peaks, but
there's a little bit.
Right.
Because I think Dale's got one at some points. It is 1990. They existed.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, gathering around, like, every, like, I don't know, I think everybody in town gathering around a certain specific event, that's definitely a thing.
I think what it is that it's an exaggeration of thing that exists, because my town had a giant milk bottle in it, and we were very proud of it. And by we, I mean not me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like,
other people that I was aware of were very proud of this milk bottle.
Yeah, the town government, they displayed it. They spent money on keeping it.
Right, the milk bottle could run for mayor and it would win.
Right. But, like, we'd never have an annual milk bottle parade. You know, it wasn't that extreme. You just have your regular, like, Memorial Day shit. And so this town is, like, they're doing, cinnamon pie?
Yeah.
Which sounds either disgusting or delicious. I'm not sure which. I assume that's a real thing. Have you ever had cinnamon pie?
Maybe?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, me either. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be good, but everybody's into the cinnamon pie, including our main characters.
Yeah, and that's a Twin Peaks gag.
Well, the pie, yeah.
The pie, yeah.
I get the twist that it's cinnamon instead and cider.
Yeah, it's, like, weird. It's not coffee and apple pie. It's apple cider and cinnamon pie.
Yeah, which still sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I am going to have hot apple cider after recording this.
Yeah, honestly, if I had access to it, I would as well. I'd be drinking it right now. I don't know why you're not drinking it right now.
I want to sit and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking apple cider, man. I'm not gonna like, podcast and drink it. if I drink it, that's gonna be my whole world while I drink it.
That's gonna be my activity. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to hear, like, 10 minutes of me just sipping,
right,
sighing?
Like a mug of cider is not, like, it's not an accompanying activity. It is the activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh God, I want cider so much right fucking now.
Mm-hmm.
Should we go through the episode? Should we explain what the episode is?
Yeah, sure.
So like you said, they get an email. Like you said, it's dense with references. And I would say it moves very fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with what I remember is that, they get an email asking them, it's telling them about the festival?
Yeah, it's about the Cinnamon Festival.
There's no mystery right away.
Not right away. It's just weird. Like, Gus thinks it's weird that they got this email that's from, like, a very specific URL, so he doesn't think it's spam, and it was directly to their Psych account, their detective account.
Right. That's cute. That's kind of cute, right? Because, I mean, spam existed when this came out. If I got that sort of email, I would not be excited about it. I would immediately delete it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the internet.
Yeah.
They go to the town of Dual Spires. There's the town celebration. This is what set me off on the small town stuff, because he notices his, like, his first clues is that there's a chair for every person in town.
Yeah.
And a few people are missing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like weird. And I was like, but can't people not be here?
In a town of 288 people?
Yeah.
You would notice.
I don't think so. I think this is what I mean is like, it's not a cult. It's a small town. Like some people are going to stay home for the festival. Somebody's sick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like a guaranteed clue, but that is like 288 is extremely, extremely small.
It is.
For a town, for an entire town. Like that's,
yes.
Most people's graduating classes are that size.
Right. I mean, even my town I think it's like 1,500 people in my town.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a small town, but yeah, that's
like 288 is
town.
Incredibly small.
It's a weird clue.
And there's a gag later where there was like 6 people in the graduating class the last year of high school.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my elementary school was I think 11 kids. So again, it's not the smallest town, but it was pretty small.
It's not an immediate clue, but the fact that Sean does the math and there's only one person that's unaccounted for. There's one empty seat that's not accounted for, and that is something you would notice.
And that's Paula Merrill?
That Paula Merrill, which is an anagram of Laura Palmer.
yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I remember that being the next thing that happens. Her body washes up.
Yeah, the guy comes riding up, who we find out later is blind in one eye.
Right.
And he's found the body, and then it's the identical scene of the discovery of Laura Palmer's body.
The moment they find the body, it's when it devolves into Twin Peaks. Like, that's when the music really starts. Like, there's music before, and that's when the credits happen. And I really liked how they did that, because it's the idea of, like, as soon as grief hits this small town, everybody turns into a Twin Peaks character.
Everybody turns into a maniac.
Yeah, it's a good placement of what the inciting incident does.
Yeah.
Which I liked. And yeah, the opening shot, opening the body bag, and they do the thing where they only have reception in one place, and I could have sworn that was setting something up, and it never did it?
No, I think it's just a gag.
Yeah, I was so surprised, because that really felt like a clue, because it really felt like they were setting up a dramatic thing. I mean, this isn't a criticism, it's just it's a red herring.
Yeah,
it felt like.
Yeah, I think so. And I picked it up as, again, just more of it's been too long since my last rewatch, so I'm not sure how direct of a reference it is, but there were a lot of moments, because what happens in that scene is you have the gag of the cell phone reception literally being in like one spot that you stand in, like Sean takes a step out of that spot and he loses the call. But when that call gets dropped, because he's on the phone with Ray Wise, that prompts Ray Wise to come to the town, rescue them from a fire in the library, and then he's already called the 2 detectives, so that the 2 detectives come in and rescue them at the very end from the lodge, and it's just this series of very serendipitous, lucky events that are triggered by that phone call, and there's a lot of that in Twin Peaks. Yeah.
Yeah, Ray Wise basically saves all of them.
Yeah. In a very Twin Peaks way, where it's just like a Deus Ex Machina, and they're just like, yeah, I did this thing on my way here. It's like, oh, that constantly happens in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Deus Ex Machina from a priest.
From Ray Wise. From
Ray
Leland
Wise.
Palmer.
Yeah.
From
Solid actor.
The guy who drops a girder on RoboCop.
Is that wow? What a career!
Yeah, he's one of the thugs in RoboCop. He's don't
what
touch me, career. Man. That's him.
Yeah. God, let's see if I can remember. They go. I think they go to the doctor next.
They go to the doctor next, yeah, and that's where they see Randy, who was Paula's boyfriend's earring, and an evidence tray. And even though she says she hasn't done an autopsy yet, she has an evidence tray out. So that's a clue, meaning she already knows it's a murder because she's the murderer.
Right. Well, is she? Wait, who is the actual? I thought this was like a.
It's like a hot fuzz thing.
It's a hot fuzz thing.
It's unclear who the actual murderer is. I mean, they probably said it and I just missed it, but it's her and the sheriff are the conspirators.
Yeah.
So one of them is the killer.
It's the same gag from Hot Fuzz, right? It's the idea of like they wanted their town to remain precious or like the way it was.
Ray Wise even references the village in it. Like there's a reference to the village. Like how they want their community to remain isolated and perfect. And Paula was planning on leaving with Randy, and they cut. Yeah,
I love the Everwood gag. By the way, that was a good gag.
Oh yeah,
which is that? Yeah,
the only show they watch. They gather around to watch Everwood.
Yeah, because Sean is just a reference machine, and he's limited. Because nobody knows what
he's talking about. Yeah.
So he has to talk only in Everwood gags because that's the only show they know. So that's a really solid joke for this character who only knows references.
It's a good joke bucket. It's a good instinct to have is to limit his available references.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like taking away Iron Man's suit.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. It's the Iron Man 3 of comedies.
Yeah. The earring leads him to the sheriff's son.
Yeah.
And the sheriff's son, I don't know that actor, but he's fucking killing it. He's
really
not in Twin
really
Peaks,
great.
I assume.
He was no. He wouldn't have even. I don't think he would have existed when Twin Peaks came out.
And I don't know. There's something about watching a young actor nail a reference that they can't possibly understand, because he's just doing Twin Peaks teenager melodrama.
Yeah,
where he's like, I loved her, you know?
Yeah, he's really good at it.
And they're ramping up the music as he's doing it. And that was terrific. Like, I should look up that actor.
And that's the scene where Sean and Gus are like, okay, this is a little much.
Yeah.
When he's like weeping over the earring.
He's got like the hair drapes.
He's got the 90s hair drapes. He's a combination of two characters from the original Twin Peaks, Bobby and another guy whose name I can't remember, but he was the boring one anyway.
Right.
They got the good one to guest star in this show.
Yeah. Where do they go from there?
I think they go to the library after that because they get a Dewey Decimal clue. I forget where that clue came from.
That confused the shit out of me. They definitely went to the library. They had a Dewey Decimal clue that led them to a book on reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I just lost the thread, but I couldn't figure out how they had decided that she had the victim had died already.
Because they call the two detectives back in Santa Barbara, Juliet and Lassiter, and ask them to look into the death of Paula, and she had apparently been taken off by her aunt at one point. They basically have them look into the case, and then they come back with Paula actually drowned 7 years prior.
Right.
And so they connect that information with the book about reincarnation as, oh, somebody's trying to tell us that she quote unquote was reincarnated, meaning she faked her death.
Right.
Or her death was faked 7 years prior.
Right, and it was her dad who helped her, right?
But it's Bobby from Twin Peaks who plays Bob in this episode. They don't know he's her dad yet. It's like he and his wife were her aunt and uncle, and her mom was Bobby's wife's sister.
Right.
But she was real volatile, and she took Paula and ran off. So they went and got Paula to bring her back and faked her death out in Santa Barbara so that she could live with them in Dual Spires and be happy and not be bothered by her, quote unquote crazy mom.
Right. The librarian is later found hung.
Yep.
They find that she has the only access to the internet in the town.
Yeah. So
and
she was the one emailing them. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they're locked in the library, which is lit on fire, and that's when they're rescued by Ray Wise. That's when we learn about the biological father. He takes them to his Twin Peaks cabin.
Yeah.
And so he reveals, or someone reveals, that the sawmill fire, like the town became protective, and they learn that this girl was going to run away with the sheriff's son.
Yeah.
And that's why they killed her.
Yeah. And then they killed Audrey, the librarian, because she was telling on them. And also she was apparently having some kind of relationship with Randy, the sheriff's son.
Yes. And then
yeah,
they're taken away. They go to the diner and they're just bombarded
that's
with
where
Twin
we're
Peaks
just
references.
drowning in Twin Peaks references.
Yeah, and they decide that it's fucking weird there and they leave.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
That's the episode.
It's pretty great.
It's a wonderful fucking celebration of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and we mentioned the sawmill. Of course, the sawmill was a major part of Twin Peaks.
Right.
I think that's where Laura's body is found, out by the sawmill. Anyway.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't watched it in so long.
Oh, you should. It's out of its mind.
I need to give that a rewatch.
In the best possible way. It is so unabashedly, like, unrestrained David Lynch.
Yeah.
It's like it is a marvel it was on network television.
It's one of those shows, I will say, I think it's a show that's, how do I put this? I think a lot of people who haven't seen it gets really hyped up for.
Right.
And then they watch it and it's actually kind of a slow ass show.
It's incredibly slow. Yeah.
And it's not as batshit as people think it's going to be. It's mostly just melodramatic, and slow.
I disagree that it's not as batshit as people say. It's like a real subversively batshit. Like it's very quietly out of its mind.
Yeah. And the highs are high.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's sort of missing from all of this, that they do, I mean, they do add it in that last scene, but Dale Cooper, he's not represented fully in this.
No, not really.
And I would argue I think they did a fine job. I don't think they needed to, but he is kind of like the core of Twin Peaks, for obvious reasons, you know?
Yeah. I think
I think makes it the most weird.
Yeah,
in most scenes.
I think that's maybe why he's not represented, because he is the detective from out of town, which is Sean and Gus in this episode, but he himself is so idiosyncratic on his own that it wouldn't. I guess you couldn't have made Sean and Gus Dale Cooper, because then they would have to be just as weird as the town.
Right. What a weird instinct, by the way, is let's bring a detective from out of town. He's supposed to represent us reacting, but instead he's a maniac too, just in a different way.
Yeah.
Who is the most grounded? Is it the cop? I forget the character's name.
Harry Truman.
Oh yeah, right. Is he the most grounded character in Twin Peaks?
Maybe. It's real hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard to find a relatable.
Everyone is so larger than life, and it's out of control. Yeah,
did you watch the revival?
No, I haven't. I need to.
Yeah, I haven't either. I don't know. It's still hard to fully judge this show, I'd say.
I mean, you're not going to really have a clear idea, I don't think, by the time we finish this miniseries, because we're watching all of these special episodes.
Yeah. They're all. That's the thing. They're all weird circumstances.
It is funny that Sean and Gus come out here, and they basically they take this case in exchange for apple cider and cinnamon pie. Basically, all the cider and pie they can eat. That's fair. I understand that. Yeah. I mean, they make good on it. They're in the diner 3 or 4 different times, just housing pies. They only eat pie. Yeah. God, now I want pie. Fuck. Well, you got to have something to go with your cider, you jerk. Cider and pie, man. It's not my fault you planned your evening poorly. My evening is not over. There's still cider and pie in my future. That's true. Yeah, like a thick pie. A cinnamon pie. It does sound appealing with cider. Although I will say it's a little too much spice. I would worry about the spice quotient. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, a pumpkin pie. Oh, that's pretty spicy too. We don't have to solve this right now. We probably shouldn't. Yeah. But that's mainly my thoughts on this. On this show. I mean, there's we can go through what I don't know what references you caught. Like I said, I'm sort of too many to count. I had to stop writing them down. All right, I'm not really well versed in Twin Peaks,
and I'm not well versed in Psych. So I have very little left to say about this episode. It was fun.
Yeah. There wasn't a flashback to a lesson from his dad in this episode. I don't know if that's something they abandoned in later seasons.
Is that a thing that's in every episode that you've watched so far?
Every episode in the first season, yeah.
That honestly sounds like an exhausting thing to have in a show.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know why they would do it. Is his dad a big deal for him? Does it inform his character a lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, his dad was a police detective.
Okay, so all right. That makes a bit more sense.
It's why he is the way he is. Like, his dad basically trained him to be hyper observant.
Right. How did he... I feel like you might have explained this. Why is he a psychic? The psychic stuff, by the way, this is... Again, maybe this is because this isn't a regular episode. I expected the psychic stuff to come out way more. And honestly, in these 2 episodes I've seen, people don't even treat him like a psychic. It's not him really having to hide the fact that he's not a psychic.
Not really.
No one seems to be concerned. It's the main like idea behind the show, but I haven't really seen it. Like, I thought the show was going to be constant like psychic gags of him having to pretend to be psychic and having to sort of grift his way more to be like...
That definitely happens more often in the show proper. With episodes like these, it takes a backseat to let's create this bizarre alternate reality.
Yeah, because when he's solving the mystery, he's just calling it out.
Yeah, and if you notice, like, I think that might even be a further meta reference to Twin Peaks, because if you notice, when he first tells Bobby and his wife Michelle that he's psychic and wants to help him with their case, he lays it on kind of thick, but they immediately accept it. They're just like, right. Oh, right, yeah, no, sure, of course. Well, we don't have much money to pay you. We can pay you in cider and pie. Like, that's their reaction to him saying he's psychic.
Right.
So, like,
yeah, they're unconcerned.
As the episode progresses, he kind of stops laying it on as thick until by the end, when he notices Bobby's Mason ring, which is like the final clue that he needs to fall into place, he like very half-heartedly raises a hand to his temple and is like, I know who killed Paula. Like, he's barely trying anymore.
Okay, so in normal episodes, because the issue, of course, being like, if you're a psychic, you should be able to know right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I assume the idea is he gets into crime scenes and locations because he's like, I need to get a sense of the energy in the room.
Yeah.
Does he ever do like seance stuff? Does he ever really ham up the psychicness?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so like...
And he'll very often solve the crime or find a clue that he can't reveal that he knows yet. So he has to like wait for a situation to happen where he can quote unquote get a psychic vision. So there's a little bit of an additional game on top of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like he can't go someplace and like by following a regular chain of evidence and find another clue and be like, oh, you guys should come here. He has to like come up with some reason why he psychically found this answer.
Right.
In this episode, though, I feel like, in one on the one hand, it's playing a backseat like it did in the last one because the main focus of this episode is to be a Twin Peaks parody, but also it's like a further gag on Twin Peaks because it's such a bizarre reality that he shows up and he's like, I'm a psychic detective, and everyone there is like, of course you are.
Right. That's the kind of bullshit we're used to.
Yep. Why wouldn't you be?
Yeah. God, I want pie.
Yeah, man.
Tom,
you can make that happen.
I can.
Yeah.
I can actually make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I made my own lime we made what is it? Kiwi lime?
Key lime.
It was pretty good. Very limey. I'll keep you updated on the other pies we make.
No, you should. I want to point. I feel like I've only like further galvanized in my pushback against your definitive description of small towns because you didn't even know what key lime pie was. Clearly.
Well, wait. Are you saying that I don't have small town cred because I don't know what key lime pie is?
No, I'm saying that there are definite gaps in your knowledge base.
Well, that's my point, though, is that people from small towns don't have knowledge of being in a small town.
Yeah.
Small towns are always depicted as these very specific communities. And like most people, I can only talk about my experiences in a single small town.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are small towns where everybody is a community and knows each other, et cetera, et cetera. But like, for the most part, I don't know. I think it depends on the nature of the small town. Like, I'm in a very woodsy small town.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the kind of place where there's a lot of like, drive down that road for a mile and there's a gated house.
Yeah.
And it's like, boy, I wonder what crime they did or are doing currently.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, nobody knows each other. Everybody's just fucking doing their own thing. And then you got like rich people coming in. So everybody's like rich and like, also like, these are just their other homes and there's not much community and people aren't invested so much in the community, et cetera, et cetera. But like, I think that stuff also changes when you have kids, right? Because suddenly then your kids go into that school and suddenly you have to give a shit again about the small town because you're just doing stuff with the school and, then you got to bring them to like fucking fairs and crap and they got to meet firemen.
Yeah.
Kids want to meet firemen. That's exhausting.
They want to sit in trucks.
Yeah. So you gotta you get to know people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there's
just
a feeling of community.
Sit on bales of hay like they're chairs.
Right. I just found that in general, like, you can have that in a city too. In small towns and cities, the only real difference is you could get murdered by a bear in one of them. Yeah. That's what I found. From my experience.
I feel like it depends on the city. Like if you lived in Zootopia.
Well, yeah. If you lived in Zootopia, you could get murdered by a bear anywhere.
Yeah.
Or like those videos of when a bear was in downtown LA and people are losing their shit because you're walking around a fucking alleyway. You don't expect to see a bear. That's like, you got enough problems.
Right.
You don't need to see a bear.
I'd almost exchange the bear for a regular mugger. It's like, can we just get a regular mugger up in here?
100%. Whenever I go home, we're surrounded by woods, and I forget this, is that a mugger can be reasoned with. A mugger wants your money. A bear wants you.
It's the added level. What the bear is specifically after in that given moment is a delightful mystery.
Yeah, that's true, because you're right. At best, the bear is not interested in you. At worst, the bear is hungry,
right?
And agitated.
At worst, the bear is specifically interested in you.
Yeah, I will say though, bears, obviously black bears are big babies. Other bears, less so. But even bears usually, I don't think they tend to like. I don't know. I'm more scared of the mountain lions around LA because they're cats, and I know cats.
Yeah.
And they'll maim you if they're not hungry, and they'll come out of fucking nowhere. And I don't know if that's better or worse, Would you want to see your death come lumbering towards you slowly, or come leaping out of the bushes and, like, grab you in the neck? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to try both and then get back to you.
Okay. Sounds good.
But yeah, I don't have any more thoughts about this episode of Psych.
Nor do I.
Oh yeah, then I guess we did it.
We did it. Hey, folks, thanks for listening. Also, big thank you to Noah, our Patreon producer,
Noah,
for making this all happen. It's been fun.
Yeah.
We got 2 more of these coming up. Should I tell them?
Tell them what the episodes are? Sure. Well, you can tell them what the next episode is for sure.
It's Here's Lassie.
Ah, that's the Shining one.
One assumes, yes. That's going to be a hard one because it's like, we haven't talked about this in terms of, like, what was the first one?
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. This was Twin Peaks. Neither of those are, like, famously spoofed. The Shining is spoofed everywhere.
All the time, yeah.
It is extremely spoofed. And I think it's often spoofed either in cartoons or things that have the money to recreate it. What I was getting at is that the hotel in The Shining is very distinct, and it's kind of one of the key things you need to spoof when you're spoofing The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like an elevator with blood coming out of it. You can't just use like an office elevator for that.
I think I could be wrong. I believe they use the actual, like the real life Overlook, the hotel that it's based on.
Well, okay, that could be one of two things. There is the one that's in
it's the one that's in Dumb
Montana.
and Dumber.
Oh, the Estes Park. I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one doesn't look like the movie, but it is in fact the one that Stephen King based the book off of, and they filmed the TV movie.
And it's the one that's in the TV version, yeah.
Yeah. And Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice ass hotel. Because the one that they shot exteriors for, which is still there, I think is in Montana.
It's in Montana, I'm pretty sure.
And I think the interiors are actually fairly similar. They base the interiors off of that place. Yeah. But they are sets.
Oh, yes, for a specific reason. But we don't need to talk about The Shining.
Not yet.
Not yet. But we'll talk about it in the next episode. Because I assume that, judging by the last two episodes, particularly this one, but there was also elements of it in the Friday the 13th one, where it's clear, like, it is more than a surface level spoof in both cases. Uh-huh. So I almost expect there to be elements of the geography of the hotel not making sense in this episode that we're going to watch next.
I hope they really go for it, because I guess my point is you can't half-ass a Shining spoof.
Mm-mm.
Not really, at least. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
I am expecting a reference to a door that leads nowhere.
All right. I'm not sure.
Marking that down. We'll see. Right. Some kind of reference, whether it just be you can notice by watching closely that the layout of the hotel doesn't make any logical sense, or like one of the characters will try to open a door and it just leads nowhere.
I'm curious specifically about the blood elevator, because that's a really expensive thing to have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing they're not going to quite do that. God, I love the Simpsons gag about that.
Oh, yeah.
What was it? Like,
usually the blood gets off on the third floor.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrific. I'm sure they'll have twins.
Oh, yeah. The tricycle probably. Obviously, here's Lassie, so like the axe through the door.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, we'll get to it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
All right. Well, let me tell you guys about our Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed, you can find exclusive podcasts on there. For $5 a month, you get Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, and our monthly show, Star Trek The Next Futurama, that is co-hosted between myself and Michael Swaim. It's also hosted on the Patreons of ours and Small Beans.
Indeed. It is a joint production between us and Small Beans, so you got to subscribe to us both to get all the episodes.
Yeah, motherfuckers.
We did that on purpose.
We did. Sorry, everyone. But also, if you do like $10 a month, you can watch movies with us every Friday night.
It's true.
We do that. That's really fun.
We've watched The Shining before.
We sure have.
Yeah.
So yeah, check all that out.
Yeah, we also have a store, tpublic.com/store/gamefullyunemployed, where you get t-shirts, masks, mugs, stickers, posters, all kinds of things, including some brand new Mulder stuff.
Yeah, we released the first one already, and you know what? They'll probably be both out by the time you listen to this.
Both will probably be out by the time you hear this, yeah.
Yeah, so check those out.
Yep. My soul is tired.
Boy, is it. You know what it needs? Some pie.
Some pie, yeah. some cider and pie.
Yeah. Were you talking about, is cider what you call cocaine? Because it's what I call cocaine.
No, that's what I call pie.
Oh, okay. All right. We're more or less talking about the same thing.
Cider is machine guns.